Hey everyone, welcome to the LIBERcast episode 128. Thank you so much, people, for joining us tonight, and the people who will listen to it later. I want to show you my gratitude and thank you for being the pillars of the LIBERcast. The LIBERcast is on YouTube, it's on Facebook, the group is actually there, and then Telegram, and then Odysee, and the Live. Now I'm gonna add some later, maybe 2 more streaming and video web pages later. But now I'm very content with the result that I have now. I'm almost at 700 people who are following it. It's way more than I expected to. Actually, I'm very happy about it. So thank you so much, people, for being there and sharing this important moment that we have, and this knowledge that we all so badly need in this world right now. So like usual, I'm gonna do my shout out to the onegreatworknetwork.com. Me and Leslie were part of it. There's a few ones that I'm having on the podcast that are actually there, and I'm very happy to be part of this incredible aggregate of content creators and researchers, and some are doing dance, some are doing music, so there's plenty of stuff. 75, I think, content creators right now, covering many subjects. Many, you go there, hundreds of hours of important knowledge, crucial knowledge for self-discovery, and taking ourselves out from mind control, and having tools available for free to get ourselves out of this mess that we created for ourselves. So here we go, like usual. So I'm gonna introduce my guest for tonight, Leslie. Thank you, sister, for being there tonight and partaking in the LIBERcast.
My pleasure. Thank you, Fred, for inviting me on. Yeah, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and you're doing a lot of great work. It's awesome.
Yeah, please, Leslie, quickly go over on who you are, where you came from, and where you're at now, and your work, where we can get it. I have it on the little show there, but can tell people the multiple projects that you have at the same time.
Yes. So my name is Leslie Powers. My website is alivethrive.life. I'm on YouTube and Odysee, Rumble, Facebook. There's my tap link, which is the best way to find my content. Today's topic is going to be like an expansion or a takeoff of a presentation I did at Seed 5, which occurred last September. It's called Reviving Sophia. And that is very easy to find. That particular presentation is easy to find from my website. It's a featured content there. So if you're looking for that, we'll also probably put a link to it in the show notes. But I am also a clinical social worker. I've worked in the field of social work for like 30 years. And I work with individuals to help overcome trauma and anxiety, depression. So a lot of my work is informed from my professional life, my professional work, as well as my personal life and how I've integrated these two things. I was deeply inspired by the work of Mark Passio. His work on natural law really transformed my life, I would say. And so that is woven throughout my work, for sure. Yeah.
I as I did,
Yeah.
and I want to take a moment there, and because you talk about this magi of the modern world, I want to publicly thank with a warm heart the work of Mark Passio and what he brought in our lives at this moment. I think there's no coincidence. I think his work is a incredible modern with a modern touch on it, and it's an incredible piece of work for the people who don't know him. It's whatonearthishappening.com, and you start from the podcast number 1, and this is an old tapestry of knowledge about the self and about the world, the outside, and it's incredible work. So go give him love and encourage his incredible work. There's he got out like 4 presentation recently, 4 or 6 of them. Incredible piece of work. It's a must for everyone who's interested into freedom and this knowledge.
Yeah.
That is so
and
important.
It is a tapestry of many different bodies of knowledge that he's integrated in a phenomenal way, a very organized way. And that's why starting from the beginning of his work and going through really is the best way to approach his work, because he'll bit by bit integrate knowledge and that expands on itself. And then you get this very big picture of what's going on and a big understanding of what's going on in the world, and an action path, a direction towards freedom, with truth and freedom as the fundamental, importance, and caring about the world. So definitely, it's vital. It's for all people. Really should be learning the material he teaches.
Oh yes. So by the way, Leslie, you forgot to mention Dissolve the Divide. And then the girls club that are other project of yours with Sarah and Brittany and the other girls. That's super awesome.
Yeah, a couple podcasts, right? Dissolving the Divide, where Derek Bartolocelli and I are talking about a lot of different topics that create division in the world, and how to, have like reasonable conversations and share information and seek a harmony and, unity among people, really. And so it's a really great, we have over 100 podcasts now on that. So if you scroll down, there'll be more. But so add that open spot, waiting for Laura Worley. We just did a podcast there. That'll go there. But there's a lot on all sorts of topics: permaculture, common law, some interviews we did with Chris, one with you. There's mind control, schooling, the unschooling. A lot of work around the inner self.
There's a lot of.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. And I think Derek has, or he does the editing and makes some really awesome thumbnails and creates some very cool intros. puts a lot of heart and soul into his work, and it's
Yeah.
enjoyable. He has also, I think, on the YouTube channel for Dissolving the Divide, divided it up by topic now. So if you have a particular topic you're interested in. And then this is the Girls Club with two Brittany's, and let's see, down here you can see the Brittany and Sarah and me, and we bring on special guests. So we also are just bringing a different flavor to the conversation around issues that are very, pertinent to us as women and how we view the world. I think it's fairly unique. So that's a good
Yeah,
one too.
plenty of videos and information, to make your head explode,
Yeah.
and there's some people there, they're so inspiring. The Will Kellers and Brendan Spencer, Chris Nelson, who are doing an incredible job.
Yeah.
There,
Chris
there, there's,
Hansen
there's,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Derek and Chris Nelson often on the LIBERcast, and I appreciate this time that I have with them and sharing these and the French. This is one of the things that I created with Derek. Is the French podcast. Now we have a one Great Work Network French podcast, and connected together. So it's awesome. A lot of new things are happening. So it's very refreshing and very encouraging to being able to do it with other French people, and I have the chance to work with some French that are in every corners of the world. So this is
Yes.
what, yeah, and it's very. I feel very grateful for having this chance of sharing with these great thinkers and freedom oriented people.
I agree.
So
It's a lot of fun to collaborate and to learn from each other and expand our thinking through conversations with each other. There's a synergy and an expansion, I think, that happens when we are together communicating.
yeah, so
Yes.
who is Sophia?
Okay. So reviving Sophia. Sophia
Yeah,
is a figure from the Gnostic myths that represents the goddess in all her forms, or the feminine in all her forms. And while I'm not a scholar of the Gnostics or of the Sophia story, I am inspired. I was inspired by aspects of the story that I can relate to and see as symbols or metaphors for our own spiritual journey. Sophia stands for wisdom, and it's through her journey of dissension and transformation and integration that then she can ascend. And so this is a process that I felt like represented what we all do in our lives one way or another. And it's sort of a map, I think, to how you can look at this process. And particularly, I brought in a lot of mythology, the mythos of the goddess, from a lot of different traditions, and as examples of how the feminine really has been split in so many pieces and is so integral to life itself, and how important the honoring and the healthy reclaiming of the healthy feminine is for the world. And because there's a lot of corruption in the feminine archetype as well, which you can see in the mythos, and I share about some of those, the journey. So when Sophia, she's up in heaven, or wherever you want to call it, she's in with the divine. She's in living happily in a spiritual realm or dimension with her brother, and then is kind of misled by a false light, by a light, and she follows it innocently, and flings down into darkness and then into this whole world of trouble, basically, and chaos and corruption, and loses herself and loses her connection to the divine and is lost, and then goes on a journey to then rediscover the seed of the divine within her, and that this includes finding the divine masculine along the way, both in herself and integrating herself. But I think in the larger world, as we think of this as correspondences, it's also about the relationship between men and women and finding that sacred work together, that sacred collaboration, and how we really need each other in order to ascend into a healthy spiritual place again. And so I start with the story of Sophia, and she represents, as I started to get into this, I started to see that there were several stories that stood out to me. I'm going to find that stood out to me that sort of demonstrated 4 stages, or four parts of this story of dissension, transformation and integration, and then reascending. And Sophia's descent basically initiated from innocence. She, which we all start out in the world as innocent. But through our innocence, we often stumble into holes in the ground, or put our hands in fire, and we learn through that process. And it's often not an easy path, when we're in ignorance and we're, topsy-turvy and upside down and suffering in relationships and getting involved and participating in things that we regret and have a lot of hardships. That is one way, right, that we all experience to some degree of learning. So she represents the descent from innocence. And then I weave in the story of Persephone and Demeter, where Persephone descended through abduction. She was stolen by Hades and brought into the underworld against her will, and raped and used and forced to basically live half of her days down below. And it also portrays the pain of the mother, the suffering of the mother, the love, the motherly love, the importance of the mother, and her unwavering determination to free her daughter, right? And to just kind of wreak havoc in the world in the process. She stopped the crops from growing, and the skies turned dark, because a mother that is been threatened, by her children being threatened, becomes a very powerful being. Mm-hmm. And so we look at that story. And I talk then of the third way of descending is through the story of Inanna and Ereshkigal, sisters. And Inanna is a queen, and she chose to go into the underworld. She went there by choice, willingly, to then strip off her clothes and her symbols of power in order to face herself in her own wrongdoings, to do that shadow work, basically, to go down into the underworld, to be seen in the terror of it, in the ugliness, with these raging emotions. And she faces that and is nearly killed. And it's a very kind of cute story about these little beings that come, that end up coming and helping the sister who basically killed Inanna and took the life from her and wasn't going to let her return. But through these little voices who gave empathy and care to the angry sister, right? To see her in her pain and witness that allowed this transformation so that Inanna could rise again. And then interestingly, she goes up and she sees her king, her husband, and basically says, okay, dude, you got to go down now. You got to go down, right? And you got to do your healing too. And then the fourth story is Isis and Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the story of Isis in her wholeness, going into the underworld, basically to help restore the fragmented parts of Osiris. The story is Osiris's brother, jealous brother, cut him up into many pieces. Are we good, Fred? Okay, wasn't sure if I should keep going.
I have a problem with my connection there since a moment there, and just before you go, I want to point out something, because it's a good story, and the story behind it, it's metaphorical, and there's a lot of things to understand from that. And for the people who wants to see it in the modern world, just to look at the movie Moana from Disney.
Yeah.
There's a direct connection between the motherhood and nature and spirit into this movie. Sure, it's a Disney movie, but the story is just there. The heart and all the things that are connected to this.
Yeah. And I think, the role of the feminine is vital to the health of the planet and the world, right? And a quote from Robert Kopecky, whose version of Sophia that I had used, said, a quote from him is, he says, "For it's only in the feminine, the channel of creation into the world, that humanity finds the power and compassion necessary to overcome the darkness of ignorance." And there's, when we look back in history at the mythos and the archetypes throughout all sorts of cultures, going back into pagan cultures, there's a lot of emphasis on the feminine symbols and the archetypes of the feminine in many, many, many forms being very connected to the earth. Very connected to the rhythms and cycles of nature and to our existence in physical form, and the incredible mystery of the woman as the bearer of children, the incubator of new life, and how vital that is, right? How important that is, and it should be held sacred and protected. And looking at, part of the story of Sophia is that she became very splintered, and when you look at the goddesses, the mythology, there are thousands of faces of the goddess. And in some ways, I think that represents a certain splintering of the consciousness of the feminine, that, and the goal really is integration. We have mother goddesses and nature goddesses and warrior goddesses and virgin goddesses and all these goddesses, and yet we're not just one of those things. We have aspects of all, and we can seek sort of inspiration and some level of internal courage and power through this study. And I think that the mythos itself can be a way for us to deepen our understanding of ourselves and life and history. Because to me, that a lot of the stories, especially like the Greek and Roman stories, it really shows the decimation of humanity. It shows where humanity's gone sideways. And these stories aren't really to be worshipped. These aren't God. I'm not talking about worshiping these goddesses as actual, external beings, but more as archetypes and warnings in some ways of what happens when you lose yourself, when you become fragmented, when you're acting out of malice or jealousy, or if you there's so much trauma in the stories, and then it shows what happens to the individuals who then receive trauma. So for example, Zeus and Hera, the king and queen, which I kind of equated a little bit to Hillary and Bill Clinton, a little bit, because they were really kind of, they weren't really great in their behaviors and intentions. And there's a lot of violation of natural law and killing and murdering and cheating and jealousies, to the point where, that Hera put spells on women who had an affair with Zeus so that they could never bear child on land, and there's different stories that I share in the presentation to kind of demonstrate how evil, these stories, how these stories demonstrate the evil in the world. And I feel like we need to learn from that, not worship them or think that we really need to look at what is this telling us happens when you get power hungry and you do wrong things to people. Bad things happen. It's pretty clear.
There's there seems to be a pattern of the difference between genuine femininity and the nurturing aspect and the caring aspect, and the complete inversion of those two.
Yeah.
Because they're extremes of the same thing, actually. So I mean, in the case of modern women, when they're getting into this darker phase, in this descent on madness and self-hate and doing violence onto other people. And when it comes to violence, we're not only talking about physical violence, and I'm not saying that it's all women. It's not what I'm saying, but there's a darker aspect to the spiritual aspect of femininity,
Yeah.
and the psychological aspect of it, and just that it's an incredible a rabbit hole to get into, because this is a revisitation of history and
Right.
how the things were run and who they was, because behind every king there's a woman.
Yeah.
And
And
this, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, you're right. I do see that it's a way that we can learn from history through the exaggerated stories of these mythos. And
Mhm.
so, for example, with Hera, she was the queen of the gods and the goddess of marriage, family, childbirth, and women in the Greek pantheon. She was a wife and sister of Zeus. She was also extremely jealous and vengeful towards her husband's lovers, because Zeus was, philandering and uncaring of her, uncaring about her, the effects on her of his lies and deception and, and infidelity. And it shows this very dark side of the potential female, who feels scorned and then becomes very vengeful in jealous retribution against the women. So she had powers of mind control. She drove women insane. She changed the weather. She shape-shifted, and she turned people into monsters or animals. And she did a lot of cruel, vengeful things. And it's like really something to think about, that aspect of women, and the infighting, the problems with the sisterhood. It's very real. A lot of catty, hateful, hurtful, revengeful behaviors among women, often over men in relationships. So those patterns, those themes play out. They play out. They're archetypes in our consciousness. They're memories in a way. And so if we're not aware of them, then we're at the victim of them, in a sense. We're not empowered to retell the story. A mentor, an inspiration, a woman named Grail Corsini said to me once, be careful, look at the mythos that you are living out and pay attention to that and change the endings. Because we're not here to repeat the same old stories of chaos and destruction and jealousy and violence and hatred and, slavery, which is what this is all about. We're here to healing ourselves and whatever aspects we can relate to of these stories can help heal the world, truly.
Yeah, the caring, nurturing aspect now, and I know you made a work on that, and this is one of the thing there. When it get inverted, when the feminine qualities are turned upside down, and then the masculine qualities are inverted upside down, there's consequences in the archetypal and in the spiritual aspect to relationship with oneself and the other. So there's the family dynamic behind it. There's many aspects that can influence the way that humans are programmed into culture, and I think some of the messages that you brought up in your presentation were lost with the time.
Yeah, I packed it full of stuff too, maybe too much. So it's worth like taking your time with it and revisiting it. But yeah, there's so many lessons that we can take by looking at the various goddesses, which are, you could think of it as a part of you. We all have a warrior part of, inside of us. We have a wounded part. We have all sorts of aspects of these goddess archetypes within us, and we can gain inspiration towards the positive, or we can really stay stuck in that, the dissension, which I think is where we are in the world right now. As a collective, we've descended, and we're kind of swimming around at the bottom and we're lost, like Sophia, involved, supporting in some way evil doings. And we also have this amazing potential that is available to find through the inner journey and through that integration and the healing of the masculine and feminine. It's so important, right? Because like you said, when either feminine or masculine is inverted, it's going to create chaos. It's going to damage the relationship, the family dynamic, the family itself. and the children. So like when Hera, she puts a revengeful spell on a mother, she's also damaging the children of that mother for many, and then the children's children and the children's children. These threads of consequences go deep and long. And that was something I had hoped to share as well, to get across. And so we have to stop the violence and look at ourselves and do that in a great deep dive into the underworld of our own soul, and face those difficult feelings. Like the story of Inanna really kind of shows how it's difficult, it's painful. People are afraid to feel the feelings of shame that comes from trauma, that comes from their own participation in these circles of hurt. And without facing it and feeling it and allowing, the feminine element of emotion, right, to be to flow, you become frozen. And when you're in a frozen, compartmentalized, separated within yourself way, you're not going to act in alignment. You're going to continue on in some unconscious ways to perpetuate cycles of hurt. So it's
Yeah, the this is one of the part that struck me hard when I started in this incredible travel into self-discovery and healing and shadow working. I had to relearn the way that I was approaching things and thinking and saying and behaving. And why do I say that it struck me? It's because I didn't know this part, and I realized that I was completely messed up
Mhm.
because everything that I was interpreting, my perceptions about masculine and feminine were so out of truth. I was living in lies. I was telling myself lies about who I was. And when you get into this part there, and it's so important because if the whole thing there, it's about equilibrium. It's about balancing. It's about making peace with yourself, fighting against these demons. And most of the demons that you will stumble upon are demons that your parents integrated into you.
Yeah.
And it's a incredibly difficult thing to confront. As even as a man, you have to confront dark uh, this uh, uh, this dark care feminine aspect that you have because of your mother, because of the negligence from the parents. And this is a arduous, tedious work to do. This part is balancing the hemispheres in alignment, and keeping it that way, because we are so filled with advertising and entertainment and biases and subcultures and all this, the image
Yeah.
that is projected into culture about this dark, perverted feminine and masculine aspect. and
Yeah.
and it's so important to get back to the roots of why and how.
Yeah. I think that in the kind of modern pop goddess movement, which has a lot of empowering attributes and beauty, there's also a bias towards making everything feminine good, and taking some of the archetypes of the darker feminine, the wounded feminine, the angry, evil doing feminine archetypes, and somehow doing a spin to make them good, right? And I find that to be a dangerous trend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I intentionally, in some countering of that, am really pointing out that we can't sidestep the darkness of
Mm-hmm.
women and our behaviors and the history of women participating in the destruction of our species. Okay, we cannot like abdicate our responsibility for that and just claim victimhood, right, and blame men. You can't. I mean, we are both as men and women targeted to invert, and we are doing it to each other and to ourselves.
Yeah.
So unless we're really honest and like own it, which is that hard work of going into the underworld and like owning it and being able to hold love and honesty, hard honesty,
Yeah.
together. And I think people have a hard time with that. People are very polarized. It's like when you bring up, a bad thing. It's like, well, how do you love that, right? Well, the love is really ends up being something you need to offer yourself. And that is almost like the ingredient, the catalyst of transmutation and transformation is when you can hold your shame and your fear, and you can hold those feelings and still hold love for yourself. That is where those parts can integrate into your being and no longer control your life through their compartmentalized wild archetype, right? It's a therapeutic process that I think the mainstream person has a very hard time grasping.
Yeah. I have the chance. We have the chance of having you and other women who are doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's even more women, and it's very encouraging, very inspiring to have the feminine perception and the feminine spirituality, because men and women, yes, we have sensibly the same spiritual path, but the assimilation, the understanding, and the way that we're living with it, that we are transmuting, is very different.
Yes.
This is an important thing, and this is what we need now. We need more men and women getting involved into the great work, into the this important work about freedom and morality,
Yeah.
and getting back to the roots of the solutions. Yeah, sure, we can expose the walls of the prison all night. We
Mm-hmm.
can talk about all the darkness and the dark corners of the psyche, and things like that, and really dig deep into the schisms and the deceptions and the lies that we're telling to ourselves, as a society. I'm not talking about individual like you and me, but overall in society. This is a cultural indoctrination issue,
Yeah.
and when we're talking about that, this is knowledge. The
Yeah.
solution is knowledge.
Yes. And what
Always.
we see in the collective is telling us what's happening in the individuals, right? The majority of individuals are creating the evil in the world, through the participation with, the social engineers, the dark occultists, whatever we want to call them. But we are necessary for this horrible things that are happening. They won't be happening without us. So it takes every individual to look at yourself and what is your participation in the immoral behaviors, in immoral systems. How are you connected and condoning or allowing or being quiet about or being complicit with, and why? Why is there some, trauma that you are not you haven't processed that is keeping you in a state of enabling or fawning? Are you in fear? Learn what is your story. What's your lineage, the story of your lineage, because that makes a big difference as well. We, getting connected with our ancestral past, learning about history overall, looking at the mythos, studying these archetypes, and seeing yourself, honestly, seeing these pieces in you and you in them. And then we can, gather steam in some unity through our own growing in consciousness, our own individual ascension, and through that, through healing, and I think very importantly through the divine marriage of the masculine and feminine, because we need both. We need to have the direction, and the structure and the focus of the masculine. And so the masculine has also been wounded, like Osiris, torn apart to shreds. And so as women, it's also our responsibility, I feel, to heal our anger and our resentment from our own histories, because it's true, women have been hurt by men and men have been hurt by women. Um, and how can we get to understand each other better and come together from the place of how we are really much more alike than we're different in many ways, fundamental ways, but yet we're also different, and we each offer very necessary qualities for success, in life, for the success of our human species.
Mm-hmm. And that's beautiful. And I have the chance to share my life with a pearl, a beautiful, loving, and nurturing women. And it's very hard to explain this relation, this osmosis that you create with the years, and how much joy and fulfillment that you get from having this balance inside of you, and having this expression in the physical world, and being able to be humble and honest about these things, and not being afraid of being who you are,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of, doesn't matter if you're men or women, it doesn't matter, you're human, you're a beautiful, incredible, powerful being. And one of the things that we share, men and women, is the creative aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we have to put our power and our attention into the creation aspect, because what we're seeing now, I would 100% agree with you. We have a regressive uh, culture programming, and it seems that it's getting worse and worse with the years. The next generation, they don't believe in union, in sacred union anymore. They have the apps on smartphones, and then femininity is getting water washed by all these impossible standards, and double standards, and it's not it's not better for men. Men are more like women now. Actually, there's an inversion
Mm-hmm.
in this
Yeah.
point. I'm putting extensive time into studying neo-feminism and the red pill movement and the MGTOW
Mm.
response. And this is a very unfortunate, sad state of affair.
Yeah.
They're working one against the other, and you can see the uh, uh, the um, the lack of love on both sides.
Yeah.
There's no care, there's no attention, there's no heart, there's no morality. Everything is materialist. Everything is based on money. The relationship, the 6 foot, six numbers, and all this crap that it's uh, 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 pounded into the mind of the people. And you know what, Nestle? Something is completely amiss in all this.
Yeah.
Spirituality.
Yeah.
Spirituality is not there at
Yeah.
all.
It's
It's
missing.
negligible.
Yeah. It's like a word you don't bring up almost in some ways, or it's very trivialized.
Yeah,
Like, do your app and pick your tarot card and figure, decide of the future from your cards. It's very trivialized and it's not deep. It's not based on real true understanding of those archetypes,
yeah,
and how it's meant to really look within, the gnosis arts. And so I feel that this sort of study of the goddess is in a way is a way of study. It is a way of studying ourselves. It's a way of
mhm,
gaining gnosis and reflecting on things in a different way. And it's really about embodying agape love, right, and
mhm.
filial love, right. It doesn't all have to be eros, right. It's the ultimate, uh, winning love is agape, is love for all of life, and
Yeah,
humanity. Yeah.
yeah. Love of the all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a good, big problem there. I think, and when it comes to what we call love or fake love, this is how I call it, and it's all fake. And for the people who don't understand how projection and psychology works, there's a lot of things that happening in 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 the now and happened in the past that we are not that. We are not what they tell us we are.
Hmm.
And this relationship that I have with my wife, there's someone else who's have it. We're not the only people who having this relationship. So there are still people who are doing it for the best. You have these two kind of people. You have people who care and you have people who don't care. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
and
I think our job is to find the people who care, to access them, and help to expand, their awareness, perhaps, of things that are going on in the world, and break their bubble of mind control, the spell of
Mhm.
mind control, really, around, their relationship with religion and government, and looking at externally, right, for the answers, and looking externally for the power, when the true power is within us, and as humans, our power is untapped. Our
Mhm.
ability to thrive is not been reached, and it's sad. I mean, that's really one of my saddest things, is when I think about, like, just the depravity of the human life, the human condition, and how far from the potential it is for real joy, real harmony, and independence and freedom. And, there's the things that people really want are available to all of us, but people are going the wrong way to find it. Totally the wrong way. In fact, they're digging their own grave that way.
Mhm. Oh yes.
Yeah.
And there's solutions.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and it's not all dark. It's not all evil and suffering and things like that. Sure, there's a lot of that happening now, but people are making their own choices.
Yeah.
As men and women, we're not victims at all.
That's right. And stop. We need to stop sitting in the victim mentality. I mean, sometimes part of the healing process is you go there and you feel that powerlessness, which is only a part of you in a time and place. And then you find there is a process with which you can do your healing within yourself. You can heal those wounded parts. You can do it yourself. You don't need, a priest, or a therapist is more of a guide, right? It's very helpful to have a guide because we get lost and blinded, in our own shit, in our own mire. So that sometimes it helps to have someone who can see, right, with the perspective, the big perspective, and kind of as an understanding of what's happening that can help educate you and guide you and reflect what's happening and offer the care, right, that sometimes people have never felt. And then from that place, then they can do their own healing within. And I also think that healing, that healing that is really self-care, self-love, right, is balanced by natural law. And that's really important. And I think that this concept is missed in the therapeutic circles. And I brought up the goddess Maat, and she represents truth, justice, integrity, steadfast righteousness, the equilibrium. And she's, there's the image of the scales of justice, right? The scales, and, you weigh your heart against the weight of a feather. The goal is to have a light heart, a light soul, right? And how do you lighten? How do you work with the heaviness and the darkness? But through this transformative process, this alchemical process that can help free you from the weights and the confines of the pain, and make your heart light. And from that, it's like, whew, that's a kind of a freedom that then opens your eyes, because you can start to see what's really true instead of seeing through the lens of your own distorted, trauma and worldviews. Yeah.
Yes, and for the men who are listening to it now, it still concerns you.
Yes. All of us need to go through this.
and men as such, we're the qualities are not like so much emotional. There's a lot of logical and analytic aspect. There's the science, language, and things like that. The action we have, we tend to more active in the sense of building things and things like that. And what I want to bring with that is that it's our responsibility as men as to be introduced and delving into empathy and caring,
Yeah.
and this nurturing part. We have to have it for ourselves and for the people you will share your life with. So men are more doers.
Yeah.
But
And
there's
women have had to develop like an imbalanced masculine to kind of survive in this world, especially as a lot of single moms out there, and when, as a woman, when you've been through traumas and dysfunctional relationships and so forth, sometimes we develop a pretty strong warrior side, right? And there's nothing wrong. We all need and have an aspect of the warrior archetype. But those shields and those having your sword always ready, is not conducive to the true optimal functioning of the masculine and feminine within you or between you and another human being. There needs to be, sometimes we have to go over the mark before we then relax back to a more balanced place, where we can develop a protector inside us that then allows, let's say, the feminine to flourish, And I think, we all have different degrees of imbalance. Doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. It's like, where are you at? Where have you been wounded? How have you compensated? How's your system responded or reacted unconsciously, to the various threats and assaults in your own life, mentally, spiritually, physically? And so there's a real important need to do self-assessment and really look at your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, your relationship to nature, right? Your relationship to non-human entities and systems, and look at it from your own psychological template of what defenses are at play in you that's skewing your interpretation of the world, right? And might keep you guarded and blocked from certain expressions and your own like peace and happiness.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no better way to do it than having children.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it's also sad sometimes that the kids end up suffering as we're learning. I mean, and that's a hard thing too, as a mom, but as a parent in general, that most people have the best intentions when we bring a child in the world, but what we haven't dealt with in ourselves will come out, and it will affect your children, and usually in a negative way that you didn't intend, that you didn't see coming. And you can look in hindsight and see it, and that's very painful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the mother as such as it's a great word for mothers, because the children, when they're babies and they're very dependent on the women and the validation from the mother when they're growing up, because there's a connection there that cannot be severed.
Mm-hmm.
Even on what I want to I mean is the relationship that I have with my children is never the same that my wife's relationship with them.
Yeah. I
This
think
is
they're different, but I think children I know they need both.
yeah.
Both are so important. Yeah.
You know, there's a nurturing and the caring aspect, to fatherhood, but it's not quite the same
Mhm.
caring and nurturing aspect. I'm a family man. I enjoy my family's life, and I wanted them. They're welcome, and I treat them as sovereign being.
Mhm.
I don't own them. And we'll see. I'm breaking cycles. This
Yeah.
is what we have to do as humans, as men and women. If you were grown into cultures and programming and indoctrination, this is a constant work. It's
Yeah.
not because I'm doing shadow work since years and the great work that it's perfect. It's never perfect. We can. Uh, uh, what I want to say is, when you're doing shadow work at a certain uh, uh, level, we're able to do it on the spot.
Yes, you can see yourself. You can develop that
Yeah,
witness from a perspective, the watcher of yourself,
yeah,
and you can catch yourself quicker, or maybe before you even do something that you don't want to do, and it also gives you more honesty, with your children. Your children will respect that, and I think that the repair process, the humbleness of being willing to admit, a misstep with your children is so important, and being willing to hear them call you out. I mean, I've allowed my children to have their voices. I've really done my best to not stifle them from speaking up. And sometimes that comes back at me, right? Because they will tell me, things that they felt was not right or not fair and something I missed. And it's like humble pie, especially, looking back, before I was as healed and integrated and aware. I thought I was doing the very, okay, but now I can see where I made some errors, and I allow them. It's really important, I think, in our repair with my repair with my children, to really be able to hear those words and let them tell me, and to own what's, true. And it's really easy to get defensive and to just try to justify something. And, we all have still, some buttons, right? But I think that it's that repair work and that honesty that then keeps the bond strong, throughout lifetimes. Because if, yeah, I think, while there's a lot of dysfunctional family bonds, parent-child bonds.
Oh, sure.
So we want to just keep trying to be open, and that will take, this shadow work and this honesty with ourselves. Yeah.
It happened. Children are really your mirrors. They will show you your ways, and sometimes it's funny. Um, I enjoy it very much, and I wanted to be present and close to them, and treat them like human beings, and treat them with respect and things. And those are feminine aspect. Those are feminine qualities. And why did I choose to talk about why? Because it's close to where we are as humans. and
Mhm.
and and how much do you care? How much do you care about being honest, and be loving yourself and respecting yourself? Then when you can do that, then only then you can do it with your children. This is a self work. This is a selfish work of getting better,
Yes.
and for the children, and for the relationship you have with other people. So no, there's not everybody who has children, but you still can have a relationship of a genuine relationship of care and respect, and with other people, the children
Mhm.
of others, or a friend, or your wife, or your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. Doesn't matter. It's all about caring. It's all about doing what is right, and having the knowledge, the good knowledge, the true roots of solutions. And the true roots of solution is knowledge about the self, knowledge about the world around you, and knowledge about spirituality, and what it means to be spiritual, and what it means to be a moral human being,
Yeah.
and a
And
moral parent.
yeah, there's a connection, right, between morality and spirituality
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes gets lost.
Yeah.
Natural law as a way of discerning right from wrong. It's helps us to understand the right path, and the right path is a spiritual path. It is about sanctifying life,
Yeah.
right? And when we
About
harm
nature.
others, we are denigrating life. We are denigrating nature. So it's a very spiritual path, and it's
Yeah,
not
it's all about
religious.
spirit
Yeah,
and nature.
yeah,
The goddess, was represented by moon. It was
yeah,
the generative goddess of creation.
yeah,
This is a
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful stuff, and knowledge, and myths and things like that to discover. and
yeah.
it's a very good way to start to understand what humans are, and what is the nature of humans. The nature of humans is programmable. So
Yeah.
if we want to get better, we have to deprogram and reprogram, and then doing it with the kids, and doing it with a artful, heartfelt, warm, caring, and self-respect, and
Yeah.
respect for other people. Because without this foundation, without the knowledge of oneself, we're all lost
Yeah.
because of who we are, and the power that, you like you mentioned, we are not even tapping in the power of what is to be a human because of this conditioning.
Yeah.
And
And
we're,
there's, yeah.
yeah, go on.
I just was thinking about AI and how the risk for us as a species right now is to lose even more of our humanity
Yeah.
through this linkage with AI, and that's a very slippery slope. And if you don't know yourself and you don't claim and hold on to your humanness, it's a scary future. And I think that this programmability is comes we're vulnerable when we're innocent and when we are ignorant. So the babies are the innocents, and they are programmed. Okay, we should really be clear of what programs our kids are receiving, and how we have been programmed, and what we're passing on to them, that is perpetuating these cycles of hurt and destruction, and keeping us on a downward cycle without chance of going back up. We want to fight, we want to be very clear that we need to take a stand for what's right and what's good, and deprogram from those things that are not serving us, that are not helping humans to thrive. And we need to deconstruct those things and then recreate. And that
Yeah.
creative process is through the integration, that balanced brain, the masculine and feminine, the full kind of integrated human is what we're aiming for.
Oh yes, and we're far from that.
Very far.
As far as we can, and but I have the chance of being in this era of information, and uh, of fighting ignorance with truth, and knowledge, and this is what we have to do. Fighting against ignorance are the lies that we're telling ourselves, and the lies that come from the outside world, and being able to control the response that you're gonna have when something happens to you,
Yes.
because there's things that we cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost all. That we have almost no control. The only thing we control is ourselves.
Yeah.
and
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 that's
yeah,
claiming your sovereignty as a
yeah,
human and as a free thinking being. And that's why the importance of freedom is to make sure that you are able to step forward and do the right things, freely. That is when we can thrive and we can grow in our creative abilities. But we need
yeah.
to know what's thwarting us and what's holding us down, what's pulling us into the underworld in a dark way.
So
Yeah.
if there's a message for tonight, is we have to get involved, as much as women, as men. We have to get involved into this work. We have to do something about it. We know it exists. We have all the information. It has been exposed multiple times. You don't have to go in deep studies of things. You can just go there and listen to that's initiative thing there. It's initiation. So you have to have basic fundamental knowledge and
Yeah.
understanding about nature and how it works in the and in the microcosm and the macrocosm of things. And then you have to get back to cleaning your own temple. Means that you have to do the cleaning inside your brain, inside your heart, inside your stomach, inside what you consider as being true, your perceptions, your lack or your misguided spirituality. We have to fight all against that. This is a we're a handful of people.
Yeah.
We need more people involved into that. And
Yeah.
if you have the care, if you have the fire inside your heart and you want to do something, you must use this care, this nurturing aspect, this empathy, this imagination to
Hmm.
create something better, for to offer at least half decent future for our children and the children of the children.
Yeah.
Because essentially I'm not doing that for me, or I'm not doing it for the adults that are now. I'm doing it for prosperity and children, the children that will come. I don't want to wake up one day and telling myself that I did nothing. I want to do something, and we need men and women to work on that and get together. And if you have problems or traumas and things like that, this is where we have, it's the now. This is now that we have to heal ourselves as humans and the relationship we have with other humans. You know,
Yeah.
this is key for that. If we don't have that, we cannot have freedom and
Yeah.
yeah.
Look at yourselves, now. Look in the mirror and ask, how are you hiding? What are you hiding from in yourself, in your life? What are you hiding from in life? What are those things that you avoid? And what are your fears? What's stopping you from seeking more knowledge, about natural law and the occult? What is stopping you from talking with people about these concepts? What's stopping you from maybe deciding to take your children out of school and providing homeschooling? What's stopping you from changing your job, to a moral job or moral work? What's stopping you from getting online and educating people, right? Because that's anyone who has a computer or a phone can create some content of some sort to help share ideas with other people as you learn, as you gain knowledge, and from your own place of caring in whatever angle is relevant and important to you. If you really are concerned about the children, then that's where you can talk. If you're concerned about what's happening with the environment, or you're concerned about the wars, and you're concerned about the bullshit of the political stage show,
Yeah.
wherever it is, like, start talking about what interests you. Allow the ideas. Once you get started and you open, there's like ideas start to come through, and there's lots of things to share, and it's never ending. So it's not as scary. Like, people say that public speaking is the people's worst fear, and I almost think that was a programmed
Yeah.
idea. I don't. I think we were told that so many times that everybody believes it, and so then we say that is our fear. And why are you, if you are afraid to speak, then why? What is it that you are not confident about in yourself? What is it that feels unworthy in some ways, to hold back, what you see? That's some inner work to do, so that you can overcome that and find your courage and step out into the world and speak, and just little steps, little toe in the water, and find someone to maybe have a conversation with. If you're want to start with having a conversation with another person who can, like, kind of pick you up if you if you lose your train of thought or something. It happens to everyone, it's okay. So I just want to encourage people to get brave and do the self-discovery around what are your own barriers. Work on that. Don't just say, oh, I don't do that, I'm afraid of public speaking. Well, that's not good enough. You need to figure that out. Right.
Oh yes. And I don't want to be rude or something, but I mean, stop being cowards. Because when you're not fighting against evil, when you're not fighting for morality and freedom, you're actually perpetrating evil by doing it.
Yeah.
So knowledge and ignorance, it's not a justification for letting this happen. This is where losers are. This is where fucking careless, apathetic people are. And we need warriors. We need people with fire in their hearts and arts and a good brain and courage, like you mentioned, Leslie Powers. And I want to impress people on, just go there. I'm gonna bring it up. Alive and Thriving. The kind of the tap link is just on the screen. You go there and go uh, uh, discover this incredible great work that Leslie has, and the presentation is on Funnel. Am I mistaken by it?
Reviving Sophia was
Yes.
at Seed. So Seed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Brandon Martin's website is Seed.
Seed.com, I think.
Seed something.
Yeah.
But that's a wonderful a conference with amazing speakers. So I would
Yep.
definitely check that out too. Seed Truth Academy.
Yes.
And you can find him on YouTube, and there's a website. So this was a presentation there, but I do have it on, I think, on my website for sure. Easy to access. I think it's on the front page.
And thank you so much, sister, for sharing time with me tonight and with people, and taking the time and sacrificing them and compromising for being there with us. I appreciate it, and I want to show you my gratitude for it. So for the people who are interested, go, the tap link is there, and the LIBERcast is on YouTube, Facebook, Odysee. Everybody, don't go on YouTube, go right on Odysee and enjoy the work there. I have different podcasts. I have a French now that a French podcast for the people who talk French. It's called La Connexion Francophone. I have the chance of having different people with me, great content creators, and there's so much work, so much time that we have to put in it, and that's why I told people, get involved.
Yeah.
Get fucking involved right
Yeah.
now. It's very important that people understand this knowledge and why. The question is why, and how are we healing from all these schisms into society and build a better future,
Yeah.
because we can still do it. We can still do it.
Yeah.
But do we have the same level of understanding and consciousness? It's not we're not even starting. Actually, we're keep on pushing this information as much as we can, and it's all free. So
Yeah.
no justification for ignoring it. onegreatworknetwork.com, Alive and Thrive.
Alive, thrive, life. Yeah.
Life, exactly. And
Yeah.
there's many connected interconnection there. So there's other podcasts, other content creators that are interconnected
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So we have all the chance to share this time together. And I thank you so much, people, for being there. I'm very happy about the collaboration and the work that I did and the people who were there. Thank you so much, people.
Yeah, you're doing some great work, Fred, and wonderful interviews. Lots of very interesting people coming on your show. So people keep checking out Fred's work. Good work.
Yeah, it's all free. So
Yeah.
go on there,
Yeah.
and if you want to hear me swear in French, then listen to me. The last podcast, it was called.
All right, I'll study French through
Yeah,
listening.
yeah. It's more of a rude approach to French, but I try to keep it as not quiet, but calm and reserved with the time. I'm getting better. We know I'm getting better with English too. With the time, my vocabulary is getting better.
Yeah, you're doing great.
I did fucking work hard for that.
Yeah.
I'm self-taught, so it
That's
took years.
amazing. The people who are bilingual, multilingual, who are speaking out and doing the great work in multiple languages, that's like badass. That's amazing. So kudos. Yeah.
We have to do it. We have to.
Yeah.
We do what we have to. So tomorrow it's gonna be a French podcast. With Sheldon, it's gonna be a grand conversation for the people who talk French. And next in English is gonna be with the same lady. We're gonna do a French version and an English version on the 4th of July. And then I'm having Mario West on the 7th of July. And it's gonna be
Awesome.
great. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Like usual.
Entertaining too.
Oh yes. Maria is a unique and colorful person, and I invite people cordially to join us on the 7th of July. So take care, people, and
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
see you next time. And thank you again. Thank you again, Leslie.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.